Welcome to this next episode of the Beloved Miracles Couples Project. Today I'm reaching to Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. Hello, Darren.
Hey, what's going on? How are you today?
Doing really well, Darren. Let me do a brief intro of you. Darren Little is a contributing author to Chicken Soup for the Network Marketing Soul with Mark Victor Hansen and Jack Canfield, and the co-author of MLM Affiliate Magic. He's made multiple seven figures in both online and offline businesses. Darren teaches people how to overcome their fears and step into their personal power with his Unleash the Alpha Within live and interactive seminar series. He also teaches people how to recruit new reps into their business in 6 to 45 minutes. Darren, where does your story begin?
Well, I got to tell you, it really starts in the area of personal development, Timothy. And it's, people, I don't think that people really know when they get into this industry that they're actually getting into the personal development industry. We're really in a leadership business model. It's personal development disguised as a business. And I had some really, really big dreams when I was a kid. And when I got into my 20s, I was pulled to these late night infomercials. And that's really where it started, was watching infomercials. I used to watch the Dicer and the Slicer and the Steam Vac and all these different infomercials. And then lo and behold, one night along came Tony Robbins. And Tony Robbins was my first entry into the personal development industry with his personal power program. And but as you kind of go through this evolution and make these stairs and go up the ladder, there was something missing for me. And I sort of went to the forest this one day and I was proclaiming to the universe, and I'm ready for my breakthrough. I'm ready to go to the next level, right? And along comes Dr. Lee Poulos, who really focused in on the subconscious mind and our core beliefs about money and the human condition. And I learned a lot about really going deeper into understanding how to create our realities, but there was still a missing component. And then I met Dr. Dov Baron in quantum physics. And that really took me to the next level. So I started in this industry when I was 22. And I met this seven-figure incomer. And I was actually in a lineup at a Chinese restaurant going across, and he came walking in the door. He had like about a $5,000 suit on and a Rolex, and he was very well manicured guy, right? He came over, he was in lineup, and he was just kind of looking around, and he had a very jovial energy to him. He was very easy to communicate and talk with, right? And he kind of said, so what exactly do you do in town here? And I said, oh, actually, I'm in marketing, right? And he said, oh, cool. I said, what about you? So he started talking about this technology that they have, and it was top secret, and the patents and stuff on it. And he really kind of built it up like it was like some spy versus spy thing, right? So he says, oh, we're just up here in the towers over here. You should come on up and just have a chat. It was very intriguing. Okay. Now, looking back on it now that I know, what he was really doing was building rapport with me and piquing my curiosity. That was it. He wasn't telling me about anything. All he wanted to do was to be able to connect again. So I went up to his office and I was blown away with what I saw. And he said to me, Darren, you want to become a millionaire? Absolutely, I do. He said, okay. You serious about that? Man, I want to be a billionaire. He said, okay, rule number 1. I don't want you talking about our company. And I said, okay, well, maybe it's because of the top secret stuff. Maybe it's because of the patents. Okay, so I can't mention the company at all. Nope, can't mention the company. Rule number 2, I don't want you talking about our products. Now, imagine you coming from features and benefits. Now that's typically real estate, mortgage broker, insurance, automotive, retail. Those are all features and benefits driven business models. So I said, okay, so now my stomach literally was dropped down to my knees, right? Because I had given $4,000, $4,000. This is 30 years ago. So I thought to myself, oh my God, must be doing something illegal.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. It sounds like, oh boy, what did I get myself into here?
Right. So I said, well, Harvey, let me just understand this. So you want me to sell these things, but I can't talk about them, and I can't talk about the company that made them? Yep, that's right. I said, well, what the heck am I going to talk about? He said, Darren, if you want to become a millionaire, you're going to talk about them. And I said, okay, so you think I'm going to sell these things by talking about the other person and they're going to buy these? Yep, that's right. Okay. Now, from this process that I went through, I learned that if you really want to go big in this industry, I'm talking 7 figures, multiple 7 figures, and 8 figures, you have to really understand this concept. It really has nothing to do with your company. It has nothing to do with your products. It has nothing to do with your comp plan. It has nothing to do with your management, your track record, your patents, and blah, 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 your OREC value and all the rest of the crap that people are out there pitching. It has to do with the other person. What's their vision? What's their dream? What's their pain? What's their problem? What's their passion? And the whole conversation is actually about the other person, not your deal, okay? Now, when people hear this thing about me, teaching people how to recruit new reps in 6 to 45 minutes, they actually can't believe it until they see me do it actually live. And then they're completely shocked because there's zero mention of any company. In fact, a lot of people will pull out, $1,200 all the way up to $2,000, and they don't even know what the product even is, and they don't care. They don't care. People don't care. What they want is they want to take it to the promised land. And if you're that person that they feel confident that you can take them to the promised land, they will give you their money. And they will literally just pull out their credit cards and, throw them at you so that they can work with you. So that's kind of where I started.
You replicated, and it sounds like you still do. I mean, you learned from that initial experience of someone building rapport with you. You've learned how to replicate that and repeat that. And it sounds like now also train others as you were trained to build that depth of rapport.
Yeah. And the thing about, see, here's kind of the evolution of how it started. I realized very early that if I wanted to be the top income earner, I had to be the guy up at the front of the room. I had to be the guy that was speaking. I had to be the guy that was doing the presentation. I had to be the guy that was leading the team if I wanted to make big money, okay? And that takes personal development. So it was a combination between personal development. Then I learned those things from the 7-figure income earner, but I also transferred it over into real business. And I ended up working in a phone room raising money, doing, like basically cold calling people that were investors to try to raise money for public companies. And I was in a very interesting situation because if I didn't raise money, I didn't eat. So my senses went into like spidey sense. So I basically, had to listen to tonality and, pitch, right? And I learned that I could come into the line, like right now we're on an energy portal. This is an energy portal, okay? So the internet, Skype, Facebook chat, telephones, these are all energy portals, okay? And the energy will go right through the portal into the other person. So in the event that, that I haven't seen somebody in quite a long time, and I want to reach out and connect with them, there's a certain frequency that I learned that you can come into the line with, and it's like a laughter energy, and it transfers through the phone line and it gets over to the other person, and then you're both laughing. Okay, so if it's like ring, 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 you say hello, Timothy, what's going on? Boom. And it's a specific tone and frequency that transfers through the line. And I got really good at that. And I could, that's how I actually raised tens of millions of dollars, was to learn that skill. but it goes over, these are transferable skills. So we got people, as an example, they learn this stuff. One of my guys started off as an engineer, he's part-time. Now he got 2 promotions and 2 raises, and now a bigger job position just from learning these skills. So this industry that we're in, not only is it leadership and personal development, but you have to get good at one thing: people. People. Because the real product that you're marketing is you. You are the product. And what my millionaire mentor said to me, he said, Darren, when you really get our industry, you will be able to just walk into a room and people that are looking the opposite direction will stop in their conversation and turn around to see who just walked in, because they'll get your energy blast on their back. And that is when you know that you're in this industry, because you're the product.
How long did it take you to have the self-awareness that you had that? I mean, I don't imagine it was overnight, right? There must have been the development of the skill, the experience of it in different settings with different individuals, right? Because I would guess to hit this right tonality and rhythm is somewhat unique to each individual. But then now you're describing a group setting. Can you say a little bit of like what did it take for you to develop that to the point where you knew you had it?
You basically have to, it's like a muscle. You have to work the muscle. We all have these amazing talents and skills that we have. People don't even really know that they have. So it started off with Tony Robbins. So Tony Robbins teaches a lot about neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, mirroring and modeling, goal setting, things like that. But Dr. Poulos went deeper into the human condition and the programming from our childhood, and how we actually get programmed with no, don't, stop, and be careful in a very early stages where we don't even understand the language, right? Now we get deservability, worthiness, self-love, and boundary issues. And but it wasn't until quantum physics, truthfully. I was on this path of personal development for the last 30 years. And the one book that really did a major shift for me was called The Celestine Prophecy. And that's where I really started to become self-aware, listening to the whole process of split consciousness and whatnot. But I started to practice things. And as my body started to tune more into this state of awareness, once you get through these different levels in the game, you get, the world changes. The world completely changes. Like the grass is greener, the sky is bluer. It's different. It's different in higher frequencies, and it evolves and it gets better and better and better until you can literally almost manifest on demand once you understand this. So what happened for me was that I would go into like a lounge, as an example, and I could tune into a specific frequency. It started to almost get to the point of being like science fiction. Like I'd be with a group in a corner in a lounge, and I would, get into a certain vibration. I would say, hey guys, okay, you guys ready? Okay, I'm gonna stand up on 3. And when I stand up, this entire room is gonna stop talking. And I would do it. And they would it was literally like a science fiction movie. And it would be hard to fathom what just happened. It was almost like, what, right? Or I would be at the table and, we were at the Sutton Place Hotel and a lot of celebrities and stuff came through there, and I'd focus in on one specific person, right? And I'd say, see that guy right over there? The actor right there. Yeah, okay, here's what's gonna happen. At the very end of the night, the place is gonna clear out. He's gonna stand up, he's gonna walk over here, and he's gonna sit right here, right beside me. And it would actually happen, right? And I got to the point where I could, tap into these frequencies and tap into these energies. And, it didn't look real. It looked like these people were with me in the Matrix movie. And you just get better and better and better. And it's through practice. You know, you have to be in a very high frequency state to be able to do some of these things. Like somebody will say, Darren, how could you start something and like with nothing? Like I just did a campaign I rolled out. I started with $1,349, and 30 days later, I had $165,000 in the bank out of thin air, right? I didn't spend any money on paid advertising, not at all, okay? So it really is about, if you don't believe that that's possible, it will never happen in a million years for you, ever. So belief is really, really critical with this whole thing. But the equation for manifestation, okay, this is the actual equation. There's an equation for it. Okay, so here it is. It's thought directed emotion that generates feeling.
You said emotion, thought directed.
Emotion.
Okay.
Emotion is motion. Emotion is motion. Now that could be forwards or backwards, but thought directed emotion that generates feeling is what creates your reality. Now, the good news is it works for everything you want. The bad news is it works for everything that you don't want. There's two realities that are parallel. You got everything you want over here, you got everything you don't want over here. And you're walking this tightrope between these two realities. And depending on which one that you're emotionally connected to through your self-talk, right? Your thoughts, your words that you speak and write, and your emotional connection, okay? And then it's like a radio beacon. It goes, whoosh, and now that's going to communicate with the electrons. Now the electrons are in a state of superposition. They're waiting. They're waiting for your instructions, right? They're going to be either a wave of energy or particle of matter, and they're waiting. They're waiting. So what are you going to get? I don't know. Depends on what your thought-directed emotion is that goes out to those electrons each and every day. Now, because of the fact that we deal with the human condition, right? 70 to 80% of all of our thoughts every day are negative. And that's never going to go away. That's the baseline, right? It's like pretty bad. It's pretty bad odds, right? You know what I mean? It's pretty bad odds. So this is why the personal development is so important. But most people do this in their entrepreneurial business. They go like this. They go, so it's like, oh my God, they're going to join. They're going to join. Oh, they went with somebody else. So it's like bipolar mood disorder. So they go from euphoria to clinical depression and wanting to quit, back up to euphoria, back down to depression. The goal is to get to this in the game. Okay, that's the goal. Okay, most people.
That's almost that frequency, that tonal reference that you're speaking of.
Yeah, like the yin and the yang's never going away. It's like the seasons. You got winter, spring, summer, fall, winter, spring, summer, fall, right? So it's like the heartbeat is never going to just, if it goes flatline, you're dead, right? It's always going to do this. That's just life. But what people don't understand is that the way that the universe is structured, if you go into euphoria, it has to reset to get to the center again. So people go and they have this crash, and a crash can take you completely flatline. Okay, it can take you flatline for 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months. I've seen people have to go onto antidepressants to get out of a crash, but they don't know in the early stage of their evolution and getting to their spiritual path, they don't understand any of this, right? Because in the three-dimensional reality in the first level of the game, which is victimhood, a lot of this stuff isn't even in the state of awareness yet. It's not until you get on the path of personal development and you graduate, right? And you get to the next level of the game that you can advance. You have to actually be able to take full responsibility for your entire timeline and love yourself enough to forgive yourself to even advance. And until you can give credit or gratitude to all the pain which forged all of your talents and skills, you can never give gratitude to your talents and skills to have them worth anything to get into universal abundance zone. It's not possible. It's not possible, right? So until a person can actually give gratitude for the shit, right, and appreciate it, they can never actually get to 7 million, or a million, 7 figures, a million, 10 million, 20, 30, 40, 50 million, 100 million, a billion. It's not possible. It's not possible, right? They're stuck in the low vibrational frequency, 3,000 to 5,000 a month. They're in prison in their own mind, and they're in victimhood. Bummer, right? Bummer.
Back to belief again, right? Like that's a self-awareness. I mean, there's a lot of pieces here, but let me see if I can echo back what's sinking in for me, because it's a lot. I don't know that it's all sinking in. I'm sure it's a lot what you're sharing right now, but it's brilliant. In fact, let me back up even further and ask your take. I'd like to overlay a belief system somewhat I loosely work with. And it's simply because I used to hold on to beliefs like these were really valuable and useful. And I've only got one left, Darren. There's literally just one left that I do hold on to like a good firm walking stick. And it's that everything, literally everything's unknowable. So if I back up from that, there seems to be this realm of the known, right? What we know, we think we know, we got the credentials to prove that we know, right? And then there's the unknown, right? And these are things that we can identify and we can pull into the known. But I haven't found this is more than about 10%, because it leaves this 90%, which is what I call the unknowable. And that's what it sounds like you're tapping, and yet you're bringing some clarity to it. Whereas where I've found it's really like reaching into the darkness or the light and pulling out things. And it's like a strobe light. I'll get inspiration in instants, but to anchor that in the known sounds like what you're doing.
I actually, yes, and it's very, it's very simple, okay? But the simplest things can be the most difficult to accept, okay? The simplest things can be the most difficult to accept as truth, okay? So here's what I'm gonna share with you. You can master your reality by focusing on your preferred state of being. Focus on your preferred state of being and love yourself enough to feel worthy and deserving, to know that abundance is your birthright. There's not enough money that can pay, that is in the world that can pay for your worth, and that everything that mankind has created, you deserve to have. It's real simple. And once you can believe that to be true and accept it as your baseline, a lot of the struggle just disappears. There's like, oh, it's gone now, because that's your baseline belief, right? That all you have to do is focus on your preferred state. Now, it doesn't make it right or wrong, right? So if my preferred state has, like I collect watches as an example, and I love cars. And, so somebody might look at, say something like a Pagani, right? That's like 2.2 million. And for them, it's completely ridiculous. But for me, it's not, right? Because I look at the hand craftsmanship and the attention to detail, right? So a lot of people say, well, Darren, why would you go, spend 34,000 bucks on a Rolex, right? Because I set it as a goal for myself, not because it was anything, but because I just felt I deserved it. That's all, right? Or when I wanted to be able to just pay $1 million for a house, just like wire $1 million bucks, right? And was it my ego? No, that was my preferred state of being. That was just my preferred state. So once you get clear on your preferred state of being, the universe you can bend the universe, literally. You can bend everything to your way. of your belief. It all has to do with your belief. So because of the fact that I really tuned in to quantum physics, right, and the wave particle theory, here's, I don't know if you've actually ever seen this, but I highly recommend that you do. It's called Down the Rabbit Hole. Okay, what the bleep do we know? Down the rabbit hole. It's quantum edition. You have to have the quantum edition, but I highly recommend to watch that numerous times. And the book Ask and It Is Given by Esther and Jerry Hicks. Those two things right there will completely change every area of your life, okay? Because you'll start to get tuned into your body, into vibrational resonance and frequency, and understand that your body is like a radio station. And you can tune it in to these 99.3, 104.3. You can turn it into these things like bass and treble, right? You can tune your body the same way. And once you become aware of that, oh my God. Because that's what manifests. And then you get, as you condition your body more, the body, you will know when the body has a certain feeling coming on, right? So when I start talking about it and I get, right, and I just go, how do I feel? How do I feel? The wave comes. You see it's like stands up, my hair starts standing up on end, right? Because I've tuned it so much. So in a fraction of 2 seconds, I can tune that into the vibration, and then that now starts sending out a broadcast out to the electrons. Now, here's the cool thing. The scientists did not, they basically were having this sort of argument. Like one group of scientists said, they're trying to figure out what everything is actually made up of. Okay, so one group of scientists said, everything is made of waves of energy, right? And the other group of scientists said, no, 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 no. Everything is made up of particles of matter. And the particles of matter come together and they form the electrons. Electrons come together and they form the atoms and the molecules, and then there's stuff, right? Like this, okay? But the other one said, no, no, no. It's the waves of energy that come together to form the electrons, and the electrons come together to form the atoms and the molecules, and then that comes together to form stuff, okay? The scientists that believed that everything was made up of waves of energy looked down through the microscope and they saw waves of energy. The scientists that believed that it was particles of matter looked down and they saw particles of matter. Okay, so imagine you've got these two laboratories, waves of energy, particles of matter. When a scientist from here, okay, the wave, went over to this laboratory, they saw waves. When a scientist from here went over to this laboratory, they saw particles. What? How's that even freaking possible? It's possible because the electrons are both at the same time. They're in a state of superposition and they're waiting for your instructions. And the instructions come from thought-directed emotion that generates feeling. And that feeling is what is communicating with those electrons. And once you get tuned into that, you can feel it. When I do these interviews and stuff, I get these goosebumps for hour, 2, 3 hours straight. They don't go away. As I'm teaching these concepts and philosophies to my students, they don't go away for the entire time that I'm doing the broadcast. And that's just because I've done it so much. I've talked about it so much. And I believe that if a person will really take the time and learn this, you can have anything that you want, anything that you want. It really has to do with whether or not you love yourself enough to feel worthy.
And you're able to receive it, therefore, aren't you, right? You're open to it.
It's like this. If you take a rock, okay, a rock, and you put it into a river, the best possible case scenario is the rock gets polished. Okay, now that's not a bad thing, right? Because you take out that rock and it's like, oh, this is beautiful, right? But if you want to go into the abundant zone, the rock has to go through a transformation and become a sponge. Okay, now a sponge gets bigger and the water goes through it. Okay, that's the river of abundance. So what actually stops that? So imagine you're the rock. Okay, the water's going to come like this. It's going to go right around you and it's going to keep on going. But if you're a sponge, the water's going to come. It's going to go right through you. Okay, so most people are the rock. Most people are the rock.
Well, look at, I was the rock with this idea of an old belief system, the known, the unknown, the unknowable. And what I'm hearing you're doing is you're just breaking those barriers. They're not even breaking them. You're showing me how porous they actually are, unless I think they're solid, right? I mean, that's the sponge versus the rock. I mean, we're back to belief. You're like, you're going to get what you ask for, right? And if you keep asking for a belief, you're pretty much going to be stuck with living with it.
You really have to, and I'm like, I don't, get out and, preach on, whatever a person's spiritual beliefs are. It doesn't matter. They could believe in their higher consciousness, their higher self, the universe, God, Buddha, Jesus. It doesn't matter, right? But I believe that in order to go to these higher realms, you have to believe that there is a higher purpose for you here on the planet, right? Because it's not about you and your family, trust me. And until you can take the focus off of that and onto your higher global purpose, you can never get to those higher numbers. It's not possible, right? You'll never advance from the first level, or even getting past the first level into the second level of the game into the higher realms. It will never happen for people. Right? Not only will their belief not allow it, but the principles of the universe will not allow it, because everything that they're doing is to support their own ego. Okay? It doesn't have a higher purpose to it, and that's a problem. Right? That's a problem. You got a blocker there. You can't go any further in the game. It's three-dimensional holographic video game, just so you know. And once you understand it more and you understand how to use the game controller in the video game, everything changes. It's phenomenal. People watch The Matrix and they don't, they think it's science fiction. I can tell you for 100% factually that it's real. It's not fake. It's not fake at all.
You're living in the Matrix and you understand the mechanisms, the systems. Let's use this word system. You understand how the systems are working, and then you're able to tune them, as you said. Well, even tune yourself to be in harmony with them. Is that an accurate way to speak it?
Basically, yeah. And, keep in mind, this didn't come to me overnight. I mean, I started when I was 22 with Tony, and then, here's the power of this. Okay, I want you to think of, like, holy crap, could that even really happen? Okay, so I was working with Dr. Poulos, me and my business partner, and we were phoning corporations and stuff, and we were finding out, oh, they already had Dr. Poulos. And that's the only person that we had on our roster, right, was Dr. Poulos or nothing. So they said, well, who else do you have? And we said, well, we don't have anything else, right? And so my business partner and I used to teach street dancing, right? The pop locking and stuff like that, right? And he was a magician, right? He had all these magic tricks and this cool stuff. So we developed this keynote speech called Overcoming the Crippling Effects of Negative Thinking, because he used to be in a wheelchair, and he used a lot of these matrix principles to heal his joints and everything. He had rheumatoid arthritis and ankylosing spondylitis. He walked out of the wheelchair. The doctor said it was impossible. He walked out of the wheelchair using Dr. Poulos. Dr. Poulos was curing stage 4 cancer patients with his hypnotherapy. So, and I witnessed the stuff going on with Rob. So Rob walked out of the wheelchair, and we started doing these, these seminars and stuff. And I said, you know what, Rob, let's go down to the beach and let's really figure out what we want out of this. Like, how would we know? How are we ever going to know if we really did it? How do we know? So he said, okay, let's see. Well, we'd probably be working with Tony Robbins. right? And he's like the best guy. So work with Tony Robbins. Okay, what else? Well, we'd probably be like written up on a magazine or a newspaper or something like that on the front cover, right? Okay, front cover, magazine or newspaper. Okay, cool. Well, we'd have like corporate sponsors, right? Like they'd pay for everything, our clothes, travel. They'd send us all over the place. They'd give us stuff and free stuff, right? That would be cool. Yeah, corporate sponsors, that'd be awesome. You know, we'd probably be doing like seminars for like these big corporations, you know, like these big employee places. Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, what else? Let's see. We'd be on Oprah Winfrey. Yeah, that'd be cool. Be on Oprah Winfrey. Okay, cool. Let's see what else. We would donate $1 million to charity. Okay, great. Donate $1 million to charity. Now we just surrendered. You know, we just started doing the stuff, and we were doing stuff with the Vancouver Board of Trade and, you know, World Trade Center and whatnot. And all of a sudden we get this call, you know, from the Vancouver Board of Trade downtown. And they said, you know, hey guys, listen, we want you to, you know, we want to interview you guys. You know, it's just, you know, you're doing some great things around town. We want to do an interview. So we go down and get interviewed. And right at that time, Tony Robbins was coming in town. And they wrote the article. And the two people that they made reference to in our article were Michael Jordan and Tony Robbins. And those two guys were both on our vision board because Michael Jordan is just amazing what he's done with branding and, you know, his sponsorships. And so what happened was that they said, well, you know, we got some news for you guys. And I was like, well, what's the news? They said, well, you're going to be on the front cover of the paper, you know, comic book duo, Look to Conquer, the Power of Positivity. So we were on the front cover for this broadcast. So then all of a sudden we get this random phone call, right? This is Darren Little. I go, yeah. You know, we're calling from the Magellan Group. We represent Tony Robbins. We've heard some good things about you guys at the Vancouver Board of Trade. Tony Robbins is coming in town for the Firewalk. We're wondering if you can open up. And I'm like, I thought it was a joke. I thought it was a prank call, right? So we end up opening up for Tony for this Firewalk in Vancouver, and they gave us the Firewalk seminar as a bonus. And we put on our own seminar, and we had 28 corporate sponsors that paid for everything. They gave us suit jackets and suits, and they flew us to Club Med, and they did our balloons and our chocolates and, you know, all of our promotional material, our posters, our everything that we had in our campaign was all supplied by our corporate sponsors. And even the trips to Club Med with the airfare and all the rest of the stuff, it was amazing. Now, what happened after that was that Rob had met with a group. He was keynote speaker at this one event, and they found out more about his story, and they were with a television program called Northwest. Okay. So so the lady's listening to Rob telling the story, and she's like, oh my God, we got to get you guys on Oprah. This is just unbelievable. Right. So, you know, the path is a lot easier than you think if you believe. Okay. Now, all of this stuff, the first part, getting to the Tony Robbins part and the corporate sponsors part and the front cover of the magazine part, only took 11 months. It was only 11 months. Okay. Now, once I realized the power of this and how it works, I applied the same thing to my finances. So in an 11-month period of time, I went from making $5,000 a month to making my first $1 million. Okay, and driving a 996 Carrera and a 740 Albeamer and having $2 million properties and a vacation property and all the rest of this stuff, and $1 million cash in the bank. How'd that work? How'd that happen? Okay, it all happened by understanding, surrendering my pride and my ego. Okay, and tapping into the vibrational frequency of success. Success is a radio broadcast frequency. People don't even understand this. Success is a radio broadcast frequency, no different than a radio station. Now, when I was working for Poulos, he said, you know, this is really wild. You know, like most people's realities are, my reality is a lot different than most people's, right? So I'm sitting in my office this one day, and Poulos, you know, Darren, can you come into my office, please? And I'm like, okay. So I go in his office, and he he'd sit there in his chair and he'd kind of stare up at the ceiling. He's looking into this crystal ball or something, right? So he says, Darren, I'm standing in front of his desk now. Do you realize that you are where you are today based upon your thoughts 5 years ago? Okay. And I'm standing there. Part of my consciousness leaves my body, goes back 5 years, and I see video of me writing on a piece of paper, I am vice president of an international company doing international business. And there's me. I was vice president of this company. So he says, if you want to know where you're going to be 5 years from today, just look at your thoughts today. And the same thing happens, right? And I'm a millionaire. 5 years from that point, I'm a millionaire. So at that moment, I saw the past, the present, and the future all simultaneously in just within less than a minute. And I was just completely flabbergasted of what just happened. But it was at that point that I became congruent with my understanding that the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between past, present, and future. And if you can focus on your preferred state of being in the future, you can trick time. And I learned how. And that's how I pull the stuff off that I do. So somebody says, how can you go from from nothing to in 30 days to 165,000 cash in the bank? You can when you learn this stuff. And that's what I learned.
This is the quantum, right? I mean, this is this realm of what I'm referring to as the unknowable. And yet you've been tapping it enough that it's tune-inable. At the very least, listening to you, there's the ability, as you say, with the goosebumps and all the rest, to tune into it. And then apparently at that point, you're in the matrix, right? You're Neo. You're able to do things that other people can't even imagine is possible.
Yes, absolutely. Like I rolled out this one deal this one time, and I'd never done this before. I didn't have a track record in it or anything. So I negotiated this deal to lock up a domain for $1.1 million just for the domain name.
For a domain name.
Yeah, just for the domain. Like you buy for $10 at GoDaddy. So I had to go in there and have the guy that owned the domain name believe that we were going to actually pull the deal off, right? And I had to sign a contract with me as the CEO and say that you're going to get this $1.1 million. And, it was like I had 4 months to come up with this money and I didn't have it, right? But all we wanted was that piece of paper. That's what we needed. Okay, so I left there, and not only did I have to raise the 1.1 million for the domain name, I had to raise another $6 million for working capital to launch the deal, okay, with no experience, okay? But I believed that I'd pull it off, okay? And I literally I told my vision to anybody that would listen. And they got so excited about my vision that they all started pulling out the checkbooks, 25,000, 50,000, 100,000, 200,000, 50, 200, 50, 100, 120, 50, 7.1 million in 4 months. Ping! Right out of thin air. Now, how the frick is that possible? I had no experience at doing that type of deal, but I did have experience in manifestation, right? How you can literally make something out of thin air, right? So, but as you get better, you get what's called data. Okay, so here's an example. Somebody says, I go, so Timothy, give me an idea. I mean, what's your vision? I mean, how much money do you want to make? I want to make $1 million per month, right? Well, I mean, give me an idea. What level of income are you accustomed to making right now? $10,000 a month. That's way too big of a jump, right? You got no data in your subconscious. You got no data. So here's what your subconscious mind does. Yeah, right. And nothing happens, okay? So what you've got data for 10K, so you can say, okay, I want to double my income. You got data for that, Now at 20,000, you're on a different pedestal, right? So now you can go from 20 to 50, 50 to 100, 100 to quarter million, million, or quarter million to half a million to $1 million. There's steps all the way up, and you got data for each one of the steps. But to go from 10 grand to $1 million a month, no data.
Yeah, and the belief, right? The belief is not able to bridge what it knows through that unknowable. You're right, that's truly unknowable. And it's so unknowable that it's, if I'm hearing you correctly, you can't manifest that because you don't actually know enough about it, right?
I mean, here's how simple this is. Okay, let's say that I got something and I'm going to make $1,000 commission off of, as an example, okay? And I want to say I want to have a $100,000 month, okay? So what I do, so that means I need 100 sales, right, to make 100,000, right? So 100 sales. So that means at a 10% closing ratio, that I need 1,000 people to watch whatever it is that I'm going to do. And in order to get 1,000 people to show up, I need 2,000 registered. Those are just numbers. 2,000 registered, 1,000 show up, 10% closing ratio, 100. So then what I've got to do is I've got to create some massive bonus thing that makes that whatever the entry price is seem like it's peanuts. So with all of the bonuses and everything else, and you can get in for now for $1,203.95. You know what I mean? So what happens is that people, there's a race to get in. Because I say I'm only taking 100 and that's closed. I'm not taking any more than that. Right?
So that's the data, right? I mean, I could hear you reverse engineer, right? How that formula is going to work, and then now you're broadcasting it out to others, sharing the data, extending even more data than what you're asking for in terms of value return, and you're saying that's where they're lining up because they know they're getting far more than what you're gonna put the price at.
What basically happens is as you get more into this realm that I'm talking about, there is the stories that come out are so shocking that they're hard to comprehend. I got one 17-year-old kid that made $35,000 his very first month in business. 17 years old. You know, single moms, 2 kids, 10K first month. Part-time workers, 13,000 first month. You know, people that have never marketed a day in their life before, 10, 15, 20 grand the first month. One guy got out of prison, made 28,000 his first month. 23-year-old construction worker, 26,000 his first month. How the heck's that possible? Some people go for 15, 20, 30 years in this industry and never make that kind of money. How could somebody do it in 30 days? You just learn these strategies and
Got it. Wow. I mean, this is a quantum level, right? And the definition I've been working with lately on that word quantum is change. Does that apply for you as well? That quantum is change. It's the flow. It's the river, right? It's not static in a way that we can truly grab it. We more so have to learn to swim in it.
Really, what it comes down to is your preferred state of being. And most people never take the time to figure that out, right? So that's the defining position in it. You've got to understand your preferred state of being. Now, when you talk about the unknown, okay, so everything for me stems back to only 2 words. 2 words are responsible for the process, okay? What if?
Okay, got it.
What if money flows to me easily and effortlessly? What if my phone is ringing off the hook with incoming calls? What if leaders are contacting me from all 4 corners of the world? What if every person I talk to wants to join my business? What if every day I wake up, my Facebook inbox is filled with people that want to join my business? What if I'm making more money than I've ever made in any company my entire life?
What if?
What if? Now, most people focus on what if it goes wrong? What if I can't make any sales? What if I go bankrupt? What if they say no? So that's what they get, right? So you just have to train your belief, but you can see that, like when I'm doing that, when I say, you know, what if money flows to me easily and effortlessly, and, you know, or I'll start it with that, and then I bridge over into what's called a proclamation statement. So to be like, money flows to me easily and effortlessly. Every day I wake up, my Facebook inbox is filled with people that want to join my business. And as I'm going through it, it goes up to a crescendo, right? Right? I'm infinite, I'm abundant, I'm immortal, I'm universal. Soon my dreams will be part of my past. Now, if your dreams are part of your past, you're on the other side, right? If your dreams are part of your past, you're looking backwards at your dream. You're on the other side. That's how you can start to trick time and trick your subconscious mind. So then I'll typically, if I want to tap into that vibration, if you can imagine Rocky on top of a mountain, right? It would finish off with yes, yes, yes. And then you feel this rush go through your body. And that's your wave. That's when you're really tapped in. And these are all learned skills. These are all learned skills. But once you master them, it's easy to steer your ship in the matrix. Once you understand how the game works, how the game controller works in the game, and how it's all made up, and what your goal is in the game. Most people have never seen the matrix. They don't know what it looks like. I show my students what the matrix looks like. They go through my advanced leadership training. And once you can see the matrix, oh my God, everything's clear. Because now you know what your goal is in the game itself, in the matrix game, right? Most people never escape the victim state quadrant. They never escape. They die in victimhood. They die in victimhood.
Right? With regrets. Yeah, with regrets.
Well, it's more like, oh, you don't know my story. Or that's the victim state of no power. Then there's the victim state of the chip on the shoulder. Yeah, well, you're gonna show me. You can't show me. What do you got? Yeah, right. That's the chip on the shoulder victim. So once you understand how that all works, it's very easy to look in the mirror and figure out where you're at, right? At any point in time in the game. Because the variables that we have are choice and emotion, right? You know, those are some variables that, you know, in the spiritual realm, those don't exist, right? You're just like sparkling pixie dust, right? But in the physical plane, you know, that makes an infinite number of choices, an infinite number of entry points, right? With emotion, you get a whole scale, and you get a whole scale of choice. I bet you didn't think you were going to get into a conversation like this today.
It's a long pause because I'm being the sponge, man. I am the sponge. I am the sponge, right? Like I'm the spoon in the Matrix. This is fascinating, Darren. I mean, I am. I'm almost speechless. I'd like to do what we can do, because I'm sure you've worked with some couples implementing these techniques. So anything we could, but I have a question first, so don't go there yet. But I'd like to say that I'd like to bring us there. Like, what advice would you possibly offer couples, right, who, number one, have this self-awareness that these things must apply individually to some extent, I'm imagining, but now, right now you're a couple, now you're in marriage, now you're with a business partner, and it becomes a two for dynamic, right? It's even more than that. But before we go there, there's a question I've been wanting to ask you, and I think now's the time. Like, what's next for a guy like you? You know what I mean? Like, you got the dials to yourself with the variables of your choice, your emotion. You've got the dials to the matrix. And I'm starting to hear that there's literally no separation between this external, internal. It's all one, right? What's next for a guy like you? I mean, where do you go from where you're at? Where do you go next?
I mean, that's a really good question. I wanted to at least go to the part in the game where I could see that it was a three-dimensional holographic video game. I wanted to go that far in the matrix, which I did. Now, what happens then when you get to that level, your vibrational frequency gets super high, and then you feel like you're going to actually just disappear. Then what happens is the screen peels open like an onion and goes, and then you can see into infinity, and there's rows and rows and rows of these big, huge television screens, and each one has different reality. That's third eye activation. Then you get to the point where that's as far as I could get, because the soul wants to leave the body to go to these other realities, and then you get these body slams, and the soul comes back into the body, and the nervous system, and you can't sleep. So once third eye is activated, when you close your eyes, you got no eyelids. You're looking through another eye, right? And that is a trip. So I'm grateful that I at least got to see it. I believe that the Egyptians actually had mastered that, and they could go into those other realms because they're very focused in their hieroglyphics on the third eye, right? And, you know, on the portals. So I really believe that they had that they mastered that. They mastered the pharaohs and the pyramids and everything else. They mastered that stuff. At least I got to see it. But in the third eye activation part, because I wasn't, you know, I didn't have any training to know how to turn it on or turn it off, I couldn't turn it off. And it lasted for about 3 weeks. And when you have no sleep, your body starts to go into sleep deprivation and micro sleep. And the only place that you can get any type of rest is in water, in a bathtub. And you get maybe 20 minutes, 15 minutes of becoming the water, and then you get a little bit of rest, and then you're back up again, and you're, you know. So it was very trying on my body. And but as far as, you know, I'm a deal maker, you know. I love doing deals. I've got some great business partners and people that, you know, are very, very good in business. And so I may launch my own wine label. That's a possibility. That's something. I've got a potential deal there that I may do. One of my business partners graduated from MIT, so he's, you know, we love doing deals. We're deal makers. Another one of my business partners is very into systems, online systems. And so we're putting together a training vault that teaches a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about. But my ultimate goal is I want to be able to teach children this, because I think that our school system is really designed to keep the people stupid for 18 years so that by the time they graduate, they know nothing, and they're forced to go into debt to get a piece of paper that's really going to do them no good. And unless they're, you know, a doctor or something like that. But for the most part, you know, a Bachelor of Business degree or a Bachelor of whatever is just a crock. It's a way to put people in debt and rip society off. But kids are actually in the most sponge state of learning, and they could be in a position whereby, you know, 12 to 15 years old, they were already financially free. And by the time they graduated, they were all millionaires. Well, the elites that run the world don't want that. They want slaves. It's just like the Matrix. It's just like the Matrix, where those people are in those pods, right? Those pods are the homes. It's no different, you know? And those people that are you know, that run the world, right? They could care less. They could care less, and they don't want to lose their power, so they keep the people broke as slaves. And if they can keep the energy vibration low enough through dumbing them down through newspapers, magazines, and television, and all the propaganda, and focus on the lowest vibration, which is violence, death, destruction, and war, they can keep the people in a fear zone, right? So tornadoes, earthquakes, tragedy, you know, all these type of things that, and they plug the people in. They plug the people into that. So when Neo's talking about unplugging, you have to unplug from the shit first. So you got to cut off all newspapers, all magazines, all television news. 6 o'clock, 11 o'clock news is out of your reality completely. And you've got to start to pump in personal development into your lifetime daily. Like you literally have to engulf yourself into personal development. You know, Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn, Brian T. Tracy, Dennis Waitley, Zig Ziglar, Deepak Chopra, you know, people that, you know, Jack Canfield, and people that are really, you know, Dr. Wayne Dyer is one of my favorites. And you have to basically take responsibility. And most people never get there. They want to point fingers and blame everybody, right? That's the victim. You have to take responsibility. It's your thoughts, it's your words, it's your emotions that's creating the reality. So take responsibility. Take responsibility, right? If you don't like what you've got, what your reality is, then take responsibility for those. And it starts to change. Now, as far as the couples goes, the biggest challenge once people get tapped into the realms that I'm talking about is that it can be very alluring and very addictive. And because when you can pull things off that are miraculous, like I did this, like, I don't know, 2 weeks ago or something like that, I did a little mini launch, you know, and in 15 days, I made like 50 grand in 2 weeks, right? And for most people, that doesn't seem possible because they might work for an entire year full time to make 50,000. But once people learn how to do it, and that they can make 50 grand in 2 weeks, their subconscious mind starts to go, now they got data, right? So 50 grand in 2 weeks, it goes 100 grand in a month, that's 1.2 million in a year. And now they go, well, why, instead of, you know, doing nothing tonight, let's do more work, because if we do it faster, maybe we can make even more than that. So they start to lose themselves and lose the relationship into the business because they've got no separation. They don't have business and then quality time. Their whole life becomes business. And it can be very dangerous to a relationship because now as your team gets bigger, you want to travel, you want to do events, and you want to do, now your whole life is your business, everything. And you never really escape it, right? And as you make more money, you know, you want more cool things and whatnot, travel and freedom and blah, blah, blah. And now you can start to lose some of the romance. So you really have to set rules. You really have to set rules if you want to be able to have success. You've got to be able to, some couples will do it so that they have their own kind of special sauce thing that they like. So one guy might do paid traffic and solo ads, and then the wife might do Instagram, and they both have their own thing, or Pinterest, or somebody is really good on video, but the other person is really good on Facebook ads. So, you know, if you have kind of your own special sauces that are different, that's one of the things that can kind of help to separate, right? To keep you on your own little special sauce path, because you've got your own followers and your own thing. So instead of branding together, they brand kind of separate. So this, the husband has his path and the wife has her path, but you know, they together they complement each other. Make sense?
It does. Makes perfect sense.
You know, some couples will, you know, their Facebook page is like, you know, Joe Sam. You know what I mean? It's like one's Joe, one's Sam, and they call themselves Joe Sam, right? On their Facebook. So they've got a combo identity in everything. People start to see them as one thing instead of separate things, right? And everybody's got to kind of find their own little niche of what works best. But I think the biggest thing is, you know, you definitely want to schedule date night, 100%. Okay. If you don't schedule a date night and you start losing the romance in your relationship and you don't know when to cut it off, you have to be able to get to the point where you can switch it on, switch it off. Like at a certain point, you have to almost have a rule that at this point in time, now it's family time. You don't take any calls. You don't look at your email. You get off of Facebook, and now it's the, you know, you and your spouse time, or you and the family time. Where it can get, you know, back into the danger zone is when the money starts coming and you want to make it happen faster, right? So instead of working one day, you work 2 days for one day, right? Now, for me, I'm a single dad, and my son doesn't live with me. He lives in California. He's going to the Army and Navy Academy, and so I don't have that. And I love working, so I do that. Like I literally will get up in the morning and I'll work until I, you know, go to sleep type thing. And I love that. I love doing that, but I also love to be able to, like I went to Manila for 2 months this year and just took off. I take my laptop and my Wi-Fi connection and I can work from anywhere. So, you know, it really has to do with your, once again, preferred state. So so a lot of people work because they want freedom. Okay, here's freedom for me. I can go to bed when I feel tired and I can wake up whenever I feel rested. So last night, as an example, I'd put in a couple late nights and I was pretty tired. My body was tired. So I probably went to sleep around 1:15 or something else. Well, I didn't get out of bed today till 11 o'clock. It's no big deal. My body regenerated during that time. And now I get up and boom, I go off and do whatever I do, right? Some days I won't do anything. I'll go for a drive. I'll go get my Mercedes washed or my GTO, or, you know, I'll just kind of go to the park, connect with nature, connect with the trees, right? Go out for lunch, maybe, you know, take my computer with me, do a little bit of stuff, throw it in the back seat, drive around a little bit, go look at houses. So it's that feeling of being free. Truly free, right? And I love that. I pick a bunch of locations around town, and I just, you know, I might go to lunch at one place and sit there for 3 or 4 hours with my computer, right? Pack it up and then go someplace else.
Because you feel free. I mean, that's your experience of the freedom.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, so anyway, hopefully that's, you know, answered your questions and given you guys some value and
then some. On the couple topic, is it the word balance? As I was listening to you now, I just had this sense of balance within oneself, and then there's an additional balance, isn't there, as a couple in a relationship? And the balance, as I heard you describe it, was the work life, the personal life, the romance, the business, and finding a way that those two can balance and complement rather than undermine, right? Rather than weaken.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we got,
and there's something really important too in, you know, when you're working in an environment where a couple is working in a situation where they're kind of in a fishbowl, okay? What can happen, especially with personality types and everything, people can try to play your spouse against you. I've seen it happen a lot in our industry. The people that are out there, right? They will try to play the spouse against the other spouse, or from the other side, the spouses, themselves, the husband and the wife, as they get more in front of the room and more powerful, they step into their ego. And then they kind of undermine each other. They kind of will, do little jabs or stuff in front of other people to give them the upper hand. It's really weird to witness it, but I've seen it a lot. So it's both sides. It's people playing the people against each other, and it's also the husband and wife doing that. You know what I'm talking about? Have you ever seen a couple out and the one has to be right? That's their ego.
Yeah, it turns competitive rather than a true collaboration. You start to get a sense of a competitiveness.
Yeah, and they want to be able to take the credit, like they did that, and oh yeah, well that was because of my thing, and that was my idea, and then they start to battle on who did the most, and it's really weird. That's why for me, I've got really, really specific goals right now for me to go to that next level. Everybody's got these certain things. And for me, it works best just being, my relationship really is truly with my business right now anyway, because that's just what works. And ultimately, when I do finally, settle down and get into a more serious relationship, I'm going to have to be with a woman that is an entrepreneur that is free as well. Because I don't want to be stuck in one spot. I want to be able to have that freedom to go from this place to that place. And unless they're hooked up to the internet, I don't see how that could ever work. Because if you're working a conventional 9-to-5 job, you have to stay in one city. Well, I don't want that. I mean, who would be able to just take 2 months off and go to Manila with me? How would that work? It wouldn't. Right? So as things happen and you evolve, you get more specific on what it is that you want for your preferred state, right? For your preferred state.
Yeah, I hear that, right? And we will never necessarily be without an individual preferred state, even when we are with a couple or a business partner or other dynamics of a couple, right? If I hear you correctly, in your experience, you can't go to the couple preferred state without being solid in your own self-aware individual choice of a preferred state. It has to build on that, right? And add to it.
Yeah. And, like a lot of people, and everybody's different, right? Like I don't have a mortgage payment. I don't have car payments. I don't have any sort of credit card debt or anything like that. But I've got really big dreams for me to be in my preferred state. Like I want 3 different locations. I can spend 4 months here, 4 months there, 4 months there, 4 months there, 4 months there, 4 months there. And, and I'm okay with that. I think that other people are less okay. Then it's my life. Like I'm totally happy. You know what I mean? Like it's, it's bizarre, and that's kind of bizarre, but, everybody's different, and there's no right way or wrong way. That's the thing to understand. So it's only what's right for you in your world, because it's your reality. And if you can be in your preferred state of being to get where you want, now you can come into a relationship in a much better scenario, right? Instead of bringing all the baggage with you. A lot of people get into relationships when they shouldn't, when they have way too much baggage. They're better off to deal with the baggage first and then come in clear.
I want your take on my usual close to these interviews. I usually emphasize this concept, this experience that I have had and I'm still having, which I refer to as because together we overcome. And yet what you've brought now with this quantum awareness, the preferred state, I'm curious how you would coin that. Is my meaning clear when I say together we overcome? I mean like a married couple, like parents to those 12 to 15-year-olds that you wish to influence, the two, the mother, the father, that together they can overcome. But how would you speak it, Darren, with this awareness and your preferred state and your personal experience? How would you coin that? Would you say
it's actually called co-creation. Co-creation. Each one of us Like, okay, so we basically are in the spiritual world. We start in the spiritual world, we come into the physical experience, the human experience, and then we leave back to where we came from in the spiritual world. So it's like the ocean. You take 2 cups and you dip it into the water and you pour them back out the back in the ocean. So, but as humans, we co-create experiences together. And if you can co-create preferred states together, that's the ultimate situation. So for me, my goal is to be able to find people that I like being around, that I like hanging out with, that I have fun with, that I eventually want to travel with. So you got these really cool people. They're all peak performers. They're all, 7-figure income earners, multiple 7-figure income, some are 8-figure income earners. And you have that freedom lifestyle. And then, what we'll do is like, we'll go to, Manila, and then we'll all go to Boracay and we'll rent a house, right? Like a mansion that's on the water. And, we'll do a lot of content creation during that time, a lot of videos. We'll do some masterminding. We might create a product together, right? And it's a really amazing, it's hard to explain that until you actually live it. But when you can just take off anytime you want, go to a place and have all these other people that are free too, and then co-create together, it's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing.
So that together we overcome is already overcome, and you're in the company of others where the overcoming has been overcome. So it's together we're co-creating.
Yes. There's nothing really to overcome. What's to overcome? You got no mortgage, you got no car payments, but you got no bills. The bills are already all, self-sufficient. And then what you've got to do is you typically have a money management team. Like I've got a, team of traders and stuff that handle my portfolio. And, then it's just, what's the next deal going to be? What's the next thing that you're going to do? And who are you going to partner with on the next one? And you roll something out, do another campaign, right? And then launch it. Typically what I do is I incorporate a lot of systems. So what we'll do is we have a Facebook group, and in the Facebook group, there's a file section. In the file section, there's, recorded training that everybody goes through. And that allows you to be able to start removing yourself. So the leader will typically help to bring up students. The students become leaders, and that's the job of the leader, to create more leaders, right? So once you put yourself into a situation where you're creating more leaders that are all duplicating you, then you start to see these pods form, right, within your team. That's when you know that you're on the right path. So typically, like if I look at say the last 8 months or so that are on this one deal, the team collectively did like 1.233 million in commissions, and I personally did maybe 183,000. So the leader should only be about 10 to 15% of the whole team. Okay, so if the leader is 80% and everyone else is getting the crumbs collectively all together, that's not right. So the leader's either off balance, or they're not with the right company, or it's just not a good scenario. So what I typically will do is put systems together, some sort of an automated system. So you got lead capture page, video, and autoresponder series that everybody gets when they buy your system. And then you've got the Facebook group, and you've got your file section with all of your training and everything in it, and it becomes very systematic. Okay, so I don't have to spend the same amount of time that most leaders would. I just welcome a person to the team, showcase their picture, and now there's this avalanche of energy that comes from my team, right, over to the new person. Welcome on board, welcome to the team, right? And then we give them the directions on where to go to get the training, and they get plugged in. And then the leader is typically going to be responsible for putting together all the pages, all the broadcast pages, all the branding, all the stuff for the team. Everything has to be cookied, right, for the whole team. So you got to, /?ID equals blah, 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 and then the whole thing converts. And then basically what you've got to do is, the leaders actually pay for all that. in every case. Every time we roll out a deal, leaders pay for it all up front. They do all the graphic design, all the copywriting, all the stuff, and then you literally give your team the stuff, right? And eventually, when they keep on, looking over your shoulder, eventually they'll be able to do it. But in the early stages, it's mostly what we call piggyback marketing. And that's piggybacking off the 7-figure income earners. And eventually, you'd be rolling out your own brand, your own team, your own thing, right? But in the early stages, it's kind of under the umbrella of the leaders and the systems that they have.
I mean, that detailed for me, this frame of reference, together we overcome. It sounds like there is the overcoming, but you don't even need to emphasize that word, right, as a preferred state of being, because it's already overcome, as you said, and it's truly a together we co-create at that point. And I hear a very powerful, larger collective that is able to co-create together.
Yeah, there's really no overcoming once you're, okay, I mean, imagine this. You got no mortgage, you got no car payments, you got no bills. The only thing you got is insurance for your car and your telephone, your cell phone, right? And then travel expenses. That's it, right? And if you want to go out and, get some cool thing or some cool clothes or whatever, rock and roll. But other than that, you're past the other side of, you work for fun instead of working because you have to. You work for your passion and the transformations. The transformations are actually what fuel your commitment, is seeing the single mom go from, struggling or almost bankruptcy to a $10,000 a month the first month, or the 17-year-old kid that's never been out of Scotland, but now he's got a passport and he can travel the world. That's what you live for. That's your driver. That is your, I just get waved. Look at my arm right now, just talking about it. It's like stands up on, right? And that's the energy force. And once you can surrender to that and allow the river to flow through you, allow the abundance to flow into your life, love yourself enough to not feel, that most of the human population is actually addicted to suffering. It's like a drug. It's like heroin. They're addicted, okay? It's bizarre to witness this. People say that they want freedom, but they love struggle. And they say that they say they don't, but they actually do, okay? These are the numbers. If you want to know what the numbers are, here's the numbers, unless you move up in higher levels of personal development. Out of 100 people, 80%, okay, 80% do nothing. It's the 80-20 rule, okay? So 20% of the work comes, or the stuff that gets, 80% of the work comes from 20% of the people, okay? So let's take 100 people. So out of the 100 people, as time goes on, only 20 of the 100 actually show up for Millionaire Mentoring, okay? Of the 20 that are there, 20% actually take action, right, and do something. And out of the 4 of the 20, right, 20% or 1 takes massive action and actually follows the directions. So it's 1 out of every 100 that has a rags to riches story. And that's only because of that. In the event that the 80 could move into the 20 and make it 30 or 40, those numbers get bigger. So typically, if I was to roll out something and I'm working with 100 people, I might have more like, 8 rags to riches stories, versus 1, because the people are so pulled in and intrigued by the quantum physics aspect of it. And I really focus on that. That's my special sauce. My special sauce is the matrix. My special sauce is quantum physics. And I teach people how to play, how the game works. So that's what brings them in. And when they go through that training, they go next level. It's completely amazing to witness it, because the miracles start happening. You're like, holy cow, how the frick did that happen? Right? It happened because now you're co-creating with other people that are learning what you know, and then you work together to make something bigger.
And the overcoming, I mean, right? Because you are bringing people in who have something to overcome, but it just sounds like there's no need to emphasize it. It's almost in the river, the sponge, the stone, used to have to overcome.
They got to overcome their fear.
Okay, so then that's the switch from a stone to a sponge is overcoming the fear, and then you're no longer
surrendering.
overcoming. You're able.
I mean, imagine this. Okay, imagine this. Imagine that there's the sky, right? I've got this one particular picture. It's like just sky and clouds, and there's this pathway that's going across to infinity. It's just this trail is going across the clouds. Okay, and the person is standing right on the edge. Okay.
Fear, right? Fear.
You have to walk forward in complete blind faith and know the stair will appear underneath your feet as you're going. Okay. So it's like when Neo was on the building, right? And Morpheus was like, right? And he said, don't look down, your fear. He had to overcome his fear. And when he got halfway through, he looked down, right? He was down on the ground, right? Same thing when they were fighting. So, what Neo wasn't realizing was that he was actually creating the reality. He was creating all of his pain. He had the power to have no pain, but he kept on choosing the path of pain and getting beat up from Morpheus. Okay? Even when Morpheus told him, and he gave him the ability to have anything. They went into the white room and they thought of something and right? All the stuff created automatically. Whatever they thought about, right to infinity. That's what people don't get. That shit's not science fiction. It's freaking real. They don't get it. Even when I tell the people, here's how it works. Even when they say, Darren, show me your formula. I do. But they don't believe that it could happen for them. Right? They can't get control.
Right? The limit of your belief is as far as you can go.
Yeah, if you can't get control of your thoughts, words, and emotions, you're screwed. You're screwed. You'll always be a victim. You'll always be the boat thrown this way and thrown that way and thrown this way, right? You'll never actually be steering your own ship in the matrix. It's not possible, right? Because you're part of the problem. The problem is coming from your head. The problem's coming from your words. The problem's coming from what you're emotionally connected to. I'm thinking that it's not going to work. So are you getting anything that what you believe to be true? No, you're getting what you believe to be true, right? Some people say to me, well, here's the opposite sides of a spectrum. Oh man, that sounds way too easy. That sounds way too easy. It is. So they don't believe they don't believe that it could happen because it sounds too easy. So they never do anything. Okay, there's 5 simple steps to wealth creation that I teach in my Unleash the Alpha Within training, right? And they're so simple to implement that a lot of people stay stuck and their ego will not allow them to take action because it seems too freaking simple. What? You know?
They want to earn it, right? They want to earn it with the sweat of their brow, and you're telling them, we don't need any sweat on your brow.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be like that, right? So, but because of their data, okay, from their parents, you got to work hard for your money. Blood, sweat, tears, right? A penny saved is a penny earned. Money doesn't grow on trees. Actually, it does. It grows instantaneously. You know, you can literally manifest money out of thin air. Right. In fact, a lot of times when I do 3 universal deposits a day, right? Not necessarily as long as this one, but, I might do, like a half an hour or something like that. But if you make 3 universal deposits a day into other people's lives, you get a pay raise. It's a universal law. Okay. So when I'm teaching people about affirmations versus proclamations. Affirmations are positive. Proclamations are emotional. Big difference, right? Mm-hmm. I could say I'm driving an Aston Martin, or I could say I'm driving an Aston Martin. Big difference, right? The second one's got the whole body involved, right? That's emotion. thought-directed emotion, right? So, but a lot of times when I'm doing my universal deposits, people are enrolling into my business and people are witnessing it happening live. And they're like, who is that guy? I have no idea. How do you sign up? I don't know. How do you find out about you? I have no idea. Or I watched a YouTube video, went to a link, saw well, maybe a broadcast, maybe a thing, maybe watched the broadcast from last night on Black Ops. I have no idea. But they start to show up when you are making a difference in other people's lives.
Your signal, right? Your signal is broadcast out on each of these universal deposits. You say 3 times a day, and this is one of them. Your signal's going out, isn't it?
Absolutely. And it's the easiest way to, you know, tune the body into this whole process. It's the easiest way is to just be talking about it. It's the easiest way to be talking about it.
This is almost your right? This is your maintenance program every day. It sounds like through the giving, you are regularly with the goosebumps, and you said the energy, right? I mean, so it almost sounds like this is how you really maintain it, isn't it?
Absolutely it is. Because okay, so every time I talk about the wave particle theory, bam, my body goes. Every time I talk about the electrons being in superposition, right? So the more I speak about it, the more it becomes my reality. So, you know, because of the fact that I know that this is really real and it really is this way, and I'm talking about it constantly, it goes next level on its own. Right? I'm shown other things in the game. It's like, okay, imagine this. You're playing Super Mario Brothers and they only have 10 levels. And you're basically at level 10, you're like playing it like this because you've mastered it so much. So you're having a conversation over here with this guy and you're playing over here with Super Mario Brothers. You're not even looking at the screen anymore. Or you're doing the Rubik's Cube blindfolded behind your back, right? What happens after that? Another gateway opens. There's a new level. Okay, now you don't get to the next levels unless you're mastering these ones. It's not possible, right? And right when you think that you've got it mastered, whack, you get tested to see if you really know how it works. So here's what happened for me. I went from 0 to 165,000 in 30 days. And then I decided, okay, I'm going to take off to Manila and I'm going to go spend 2 months in Manila. And I was in Manila. And then all of a sudden we were going to go to Boracay to do the filming, the house thing like I was telling you about. And the Uber didn't show up. So I was flagging a cab and I was pulling my suitcase like this. And the sidewalk dropped 8 inches and I jammed my leg and I popped one of my vertebrae. And it was just a freak thing, okay? Next thing I know, so now I'm like, what was that? I could hear it, right? So now I'm in the cab going to Boracay, getting on a plane and then going from, you know, this thing onto this boat, onto this other thing to get to our hotel. And now I realize, holy crap, I'm in big caca right now. Okay, so almost the whole trip I spent in bed because I couldn't walk. So we left Boracay, we went straight to emergency in Manila to St. Luke's Hospital, and I was checked in and I was in the hospital for almost a month. Back surgery, herniated disc. So 165,000, and then I got a pop test. Now, lucky for me, I understand how the game works. So it didn't have the same type of impact on me as it would for most people, right? And I just kind of went with the flow, and it wasn't that big of a deal. Well, it was a big of a deal in you know what happened and everything else, and it was definitely an experience that I'll remember for the rest of my life, let me tell you. But you know, during the month that I was in the hospital, I was doing, you know, webinars from my hospital bed. I still had a $25,000 a month in the hospital, right? So, you know, I mean, is that big of a deal? Like, I took a little break kind of thing.
Yeah, it sounds like patience. It sounds like patience to me. You got a big old dose of patience.
Yeah, and you really have to just kind of say to yourself, okay, what if this is in my higher good?
Right. What if?
That's what I learned from Dr. Barron, right? What if, when people are going through the tragedy in their life, okay, and they think that it's tragedy, what if this is in my higher good? Doesn't seem like it at the time. Okay, and I'll share this with you, just before we wrap up. But when I went from, when I passed the million and then went to 4 million and then 10 and all the way, I was on the path to become a billionaire. And then I got into a custody battle. I spent $500,000 fighting for my boy, right, when he was a little kid. And that was a really major test, okay? I went from never thinking I'd ever have to worry about money ever again, okay? Always having $1 million cash liquid all the time, and properties and traveling around the world and everything else, plus stock and all sorts of shit, to losing everything, to having to actually move back home and live with my parents because my system started to completely shut down from the stress. That means my kidneys, my liver, everything else. And I was hooked up to IV for 5 hours a day, vitamin C intravenous. You want to talk about, humbling experience, okay? But here's the cool thing. If I hadn't have gone through that, I would never been given Unleash the Alpha Within from the universe. That was downloaded to me, right? On this path, on the path of, losing it all, on the path of the custody battle, on the path of, at the time, dealing with, as close as I would think of what the devil would be like, right, at the time, which was my son's mother, right? And it pushed me to realms that I didn't even know existed. And because of that, came this magical thing that I can now actually live my life purpose with, because that's now my life purpose. Okay. And I would never have been able to take people from, the state that they're in to that next level unless I had actually been through that big of triumph to almost death. It would never have been given to me. Would never have been given to me. So now I have to look at it in gratitude.
Yeah.
Right. So it was that situation, even though, like myself and my son's mother, we don't have any communication at all. Right. She's married in a relationship with this doctor. And so we don't have any communication at all, but I do have a great relationship with my son. And it's a magical relationship that I'm so grateful for, you know what I mean? But it came from something, that wasn't good. You know what I mean? Like her and I had already split up when I found out that she was pregnant 3 days later, right? Because she had
You're giving me the goosebumps now, Darren. I mean, this is Beloved Miracles. This is why we call it Beloved Miracles. This is why my life's work, my life's mission has brought you and I together. What you've tapped into now, right? Like this is the real story of a couple's dance, what you're talking about, right? I mean, is that a fair
Absolutely.
Simplify it. But this is why we're engaging couples' stories of inspiration and overcoming. And you coming here today, and now what you're touching on, oh boy, it's the tip of an iceberg. I mean, it's literally the tip of an iceberg. And I've got to thank you with the deepest gratitude I have. I was not the same, not to compare. I was in a life or death role as a new husband, as an expat in Norway, and as a father. 3 months after my son was born, I found the deepest part of the fjords that it's not like I hadn't dealt with walking the valley of the shadow of death before, because I had multiple times in my life. But as a couple, in a marriage and in the role of father. And then my father, I shared with you before we recorded here, my father died at that time as well. So my goodness, this is the goosebumps for me, what you're touching on now. Thank you, because your willingness to be vulnerable, your willingness to be transparent and share this level of the couple dance is really what we're about here at Beloved Miracles.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, this is quantum. Again, I think I'm trying to explain it, but it's in this realm where the heart speaks with words the mind knows nothing of.
Absolutely. It's like that, Ralph Waldo Emerson, it's only with the heart the one sees rightly, right? That's really the truth. That's the naked soul. That's the naked soul. The journey is to the naked soul. Just so you know, if you want to make big money, you want to make 7 figures, multiple 7 figures, you have to take the journey inward to your naked soul. And it takes courage. It takes courage. It takes bravery. And you have to be willing to take that surrender and trust that there's a higher purpose, right? That's the spiritual journey. And it doesn't matter, there's tons of different people that have different beliefs. Higher self, higher power, higher consciousness, universe, God, Buddha, Jesus, it doesn't matter, okay? But if you don't make the surrender and love yourself, it's not possible to go next level. It's not possible.
And I couldn't. I prayed for my beloved. God gave me an opportunity for my beloved. I didn't even know what I asked for. You know what I mean? And today it is what you just coined. Beloved, you got to put a little space in there. Be loved. Be loved. It was something rather than finding it outside of myself, which is what I was so busy doing and what I did, right? And I became a father and was married and in a foreign land and all that stuff. But it was really about surrendering, as you said, after my son was born, and realizing that I had a new level, and my father then just died. I had a new level of just allowing myself to be loved. Yeah, that's Beloved Miracles.
Nice.
Man, not one of the 40 or more interviews we've done here now has tapped something that we've tapped here, Darren. I'm beyond words with gratitude to express to you that we've somehow taken what we're doing in this first phase of Beloved Miracles to a new level because of what we've just done here. And you've brought it. I mean, you have brought it through your experience, right? Through your story, through your inspiration, through your being a couple and what you just tapped into. I mean, right, this is, to me, is the amazing thing. None of us would be here. None of us would be physically manifested as a human being without this dance as a couple in one form, shape, or another.
Yes, yes. And the interesting thing is that, like looking back on it, and you would know from, having a, son that's like 3 months old, right? Our split was at 6 months. And, didn't matter what I could bring to the court, it just didn't seem to matter. Right. I had as much evidence as I could possibly have, and it didn't make any difference. So at the end of the day, it was 3 days on, 4 days off, 4 days on, 3 days off. Okay. And that lasted for a certain point. And then his mom disappeared. Wow. And jumped the border and just vanished. Okay. So then it was I didn't see my son for 2 years. Okay. So that was by far the most challenging experience that I have ever gone through in my entire life.
Yeah, this is not the surgery for a month in the hospital with a back issue, right? This is a whole nother category.
Yeah, I started having out of body experiences. It was really, really, but the cool thing now, if I hadn't taken the spiritual journey as much as I had, I would have been, like, woe is me, feel sorry for me. But with Dr. Darren, what if this is in my higher good? It allowed me to tune in further into the matrix, because I realized I could actually connect with my son without seeing him spiritually, right? So we went to this is kind of a little story. We'll wrap up for this because I've taken, we've gone a little over time here, but I want to share this story with you. I got this call from a buddy of mine. I had this special tree in Stanley Park that I used to go to, right? And it was just a little area in the forest that was like a little clearing with this one special tree. And it had this really cool design on it. It was like magical. It was so different. And I got a call from one of my students, and he says, Darren, I got this like bizarre message sent to me, like downloaded, right? He was very into quantum stuff. He goes, I had this really bizarre message downloaded to me, and I was told I'm supposed to give you a phone call, right? And I said, well, what was the message? He goes, well, we're supposed to go to some tree, right, in Stanley Park. And I said, he goes, do you know anything about that? And I go, yeah, I got a special tree in Stanley Park. He goes, okay, well, we're supposed to go there. And he had done part of his university studies. He went to this this Indian ancient spiritual burial ground, and they gave him this didgeridoo that had grown out of the earth, and it was this tree. And then I guess the termites ate the whole inside of it, and they turned it into a didgeridoo and painted it all up, and they gave it to him as this, I don't know, award or something for the time that he spent with this Indian tribe. And then they took the ashes from some elders that were cremated, and he made these chess set pieces out of these, the ashes from the ancient spiritual burial ground. So he said, I'm supposed to bring my stuff from the elders and, meet me up at this place at the tree. So we meet there at the base. And as we are walking up the path, this cat runs in front of us, and it's dark at night, and it scared the shit out of me, right? And all of a sudden we hear this voice, right? And the voice is like, who's there, right? And me and him were like, we're here to see the tree. So we we go up to the area where the tree is. Dude, there is literally like a full pulled out tent thing and everything around this area. And there's a flippin' Indian shaman. It's waiting for us. And he tells us he got the message to set up the campsite. Okay, so Matt calls me, says he's got the message about the tree. He goes, do you got a special tree? Yeah, I got a special tree. It's Stanley Park, right? So he brings the didgeridoo, the ancient spiritual burial ground thing, and then we get there, and the full campsite's already set up from this Indian shaman, right? And I'm like, oh my God, this is intense. So we end up doing this 11-day ceremony. Now, on this didgeridoo is this Wally the White Eagle, and there was this whole story on this didgeridoo. And he would, blow he would call on Wally the White Eagle, and there was probably 7 of the 11 nights where the eagle actually came to this area, and you could hear the eagle. They got this really, really high pitch thing that they do, okay? So, and this is a time that I hadn't seen my son at all, right? So we did 11 days, right? Every day we went back to the thing for the shaman. And I brought with me a picture of my son. I brought some ski gloves, right? And a toque, right? And we laid it out there. Now, what happened during this time? Can you imagine? We're right in the middle of a forest. There's nobody there. Okay, there's the 3 of us in the forest. Now, in kind of the side area, there was a bottom of a bed spring. One of those old bed springs that are all the coils and everything like that. Well, the energy in our area heated up so much that we had to take our jackets off, right? Our jackets and gloves are completely off. There was no fire there. Just our own energy. And the spring in the bed, it went and it popped, it blew, and the eagle was on the tops of the trees doing their squeal thing. And later, when I finally, it was probably 2 weeks after that, I finally got a hold of my son. Okay, well, this is bizarre. I said, hey, Drayson, It's Dad calling. You know, I got this story to tell you. You know, we went to Stanley Park, and before I could say anything, my son, who was probably, you know, 3 years old or something at 4 years old, says, I know the eagle came and I was scared. It was unbelievable. I didn't even tell him the story, right? That's what people don't realize about the spiritual realm, is we can communicate. So if you're in a position and you're watching this and you're not with somebody, they're far away and you're really missing them, know that you can make that communication and connect with them on a way deeper level than you can face to face on a spiritual level. And because of that, that stuff that we went through during that time, my son and I have an incredible relationship. We can go 2-3 months without talking to each other. It doesn't matter, because we're still connected spiritually. And I always feel like he's with me, you know? So it's very, you would never, now, how would I have ever gotten that gift if I hadn't gone through the shit? That skill would never have been developed. We wouldn't have that type of connection in our relationship if I didn't go through that pain, right? So there's a lot of gifts that people take for granted that come from their trials and tribulations. You don't realize it until you're on the other side looking back, right?
Yeah, and I hear the gratitude. I hear the depth and the breadth of gratitude in you for the experience, right? I mean, you wouldn't have, if you could go back, you would do it all over again, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Wow, I might have to reframe it now, Darren, because of you. On my birthday of all days, instead of together we overcome, together we co-create. Together we co-create.
We accomplish more.
Anything
together.
Else you want to add to what we're recording right now before we kind of bring it full circle? I hope you and I will open this conversation again. I'm going to throw out a quick question, and then you tell me if you want to do that now or later. I suspect later would be more appropriate. I want to definitely be respectful of your time. You've given so much of it here, and I'm so grateful. It has to do with the 12 to 15-year-olds that you want to impact. And the question I want to leave both of us with, that I hope we can revisit here, if you're agreeable to that, is how can we also impact those 12 to 15-year-olds through the couples, right? Ideally through the parents, but it might be a step parent, but through a couple, through this divine masculine, divine feminine, which is literally the power of co-creation itself, right? To manifest these physical forms, which we think we are.
Okay, well, here's something that's very interesting. Because a goal is something that dangles off in the future, okay? But an intention is a goal with emotion. And you've got forward movement when it becomes an intention, okay? Now, because I've made it my intention that that's what I want to have happen, I already have a student that's 15 right now. He made $7,000 his first month, okay? I already have parents that are having their children watch my videos as young as 6 years old. So it already happens on its own. You just have to surrender. You have to get so emotionally connected to your intention and walk forward with complete blind faith and expect that it's going to just show up on its own, right? And it does, right? The challenge is mastering your thoughts, words, and emotions. That's the challenge. If you can't master your thoughts, words, and emotions, now keep in mind, you're going to battle the human condition the whole time. And the human condition wants to take you down. That's self-sabotage, right? And if I take somebody from 0 to 45,000 in 30 days, most of the time they implode.
Mm-hmm.
They implode. They can't handle it. So they start spending money like water. They step into their ego. They sabotage their whole success. I've seen it happen countless times over 30 years. So I typically, before I even start, I educate people on that process. Okay, here's what's going to happen. You're going to go from here to here, then you're going to get this universal test. Now you're either going to be a humble servant leader or you're going to become your ego. Become your ego, boom, boom, the whole thing blows up. No, get sent back to level 1. So, there's a process in this as well to pre-frame. You got to pre-frame through the process, but it really comes down to setting your intention. So back to the 12 to 15-year-olds, it just morphs. It's like the morphing from the rock to the sponge. It does it on its own if you can surrender. If you can't surrender, bummer for you. I guess you're going to struggle more, right? And that's really what it comes down to. And some people, they can't be helped. I will tell you that for fact.
Yeah.
You cannot help some people because they literally are so ingrained into victimhood that they will not budge. And it's not until they reach their breaking point, their fuck it moment, right, where things will change for them. They have to reach that point. That's the only thing that will do it. And that sometimes has to be losing their parents, or getting cancer, or something.
Losing their son, right? I mean,
yeah,
it's the same experience you were willing to share, and what I went through as well was literally it was senility. I mean, that's the best word I could apply to what I went through. It was senility. And it's funny that word, it was anchored for me out of a fellow who maybe you know, Leonard Orr. He used to do a lot of work, I think he still is, with rebirthing breath work and dealing with what he calls the death urge. And he says the last thing you'll have to overcome to live forever in his model and system is senility, right? So cancer is the cell's senility. And these other mechanisms of the body breaking down, which we call death, are one way of understanding senility. And I had to deal with that 3 months after my son was born. And you have tapped the driver for why I've called you to join us and do this, right? Beloved Miracles exists because it's a media company. And my calling now is to broadcast these stories of inspiration to couples. Why? Because I desperately needed to hear this, and I couldn't find it anywhere, and I looked everywhere. And so, Darren, what you've done today is you have added to my ability to do my life's work, is the best way I can coin it. And it is exactly the way you detailed it. There is a crisis point, always a crisis point. And if we don't find a way, and I offer that together, because that's what my wife and I did, we together overcame these crisis points, and we call them Beloved Miracles. It's like I don't know how to do miracles. I just know when we need one. like it's that simple. And there's something of coming together, which is literally what also gave birth to our son. I mean, my wife, without going into too much detail, but it's worth noting, my wife has a chronic illness. So it was even a beloved miracle that we could have a child. This was an uncertainty that we had to step into, and we overcame, and so on and so on. So, oh man, what we've tapped into here. And I have a feeling we've opened something, Darren, that is not going to close now. I just have a strong sense of that. So I hope that
well, let's keep in touch. You know, you never know what the future holds, and you know, there's I know that as we move forward, and I take more people through Unleash the Alpha Within, and go through this training. We're going to be doing more big events and things of that nature. Maybe we can do a JV or partner up somehow and do something together.
You can count on it. I mean, what I've heard, what I'm feeling now, is the chicken skin from head to toe. Given what we've touched upon here, yeah, I will clear my calendar. You let me know when we have an opportunity to collaborate, and I'll be there.
Sounds great.
Brilliant. Well, then from Norway to Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, Darren, thank you. It's beyond words. The heart speaking with words, the mind knows nothing of how grateful I am that you've inspired the couples and the individuals that this will be broadcast out to. Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, you probably have to break it up into a couple modules because they might not sit through the whole thing.
Yeah. Fantastic. Till next time, Darren.
Okay. Take care.